speaker. Now, Prince William has spoken out on the war in the Middle East for the first time since the conflict began. He's called for an end to the fighting as soon as possible and expressed the desperate need for increased humanitarian support to Gaza. The Prince of Wales is carrying out a number of visits this month to recognise the human suffering from war. Let's talk to TalkTV's royal correspondent Rupert Bell on this. Not completely unprecedented that a senior royal, Rupert, dips their toe into current affairs. His father, the predecessor of that very role, did it many times. We're aware of his environmental views as the obvious example. Did this surprise you to hear William be quite so candid on this?
Possibly. And of course, he's now back in the public eye, having taken time out to look after his wife and obviously with the news about his father. But his king did, when the war broke out, immediately made some comments as well and spoke to both sides, including the King of Jordan, hoping for peace. So it's not unprecedented. And bearing in mind, there's every chance that this statement would have been cleared by the government as well for him to say it, because it's a very difficult one, because obviously Parliament are debating this issue this week, but he's calling mainly for a humanitarian ceasefire, which I think we can all agree it's been pretty horrendous for both sides. And clearly from a Palestinian point of view as well, they are receiving the brunt of it. And he really wants to help the refugee agencies and give a chance for some sort of help to be given to the people who are being most affected by this. He has called for the hostages to be released as well. So it's a pretty punchy statement. But again, as I say, I think it would have been cleared by the government and to try and avoid it being too politically contentious, because I think what he's saying, I think we can all agree with. There is nothing that is not to be applauded in the essence of his statement. He's trying not to take sides, because that's where he would then get into a political issue, because he's got to try and remain objectively neutral in this. But ultimately, I think we all would want some sort of a ceasefire to help those affected. And I think that's what the Prince of Wales is reflecting in that statement.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you read a statement from either a senior politician or a senior royal, whoever it happens to be, depending on where you sit politically will depend perhaps on what you extrapolate from that statement. People will project their own ideas of maybe what he really means on this. And I did wonder, Rupert, and I think you hit the nail on the head when you said this would have been okayed by number 10. There does seem to be a slight shift in perhaps the tone or the response to what is happening in the Middle East. We know that David Cameron, the Foreign Secretary, has kind of hinted in a similar direction. Yesterday, Keir Starmer started talking about ceasefires and an end to the violence. One is forced to wonder, not conspiratorially, just a genuine point of wonderment as to whether this is perhaps even more coordinated than we thought.
How coordinated the Prince of Wales has been in with it, but I think he's reflecting the general sentiment that seems to be prevailing. We've seen it in America with Joe Biden calling for the Israelis to have a ceasefire for humanitarian reasons. So I think it's just the way the winds are blowing with regard to this at the moment. But the fact that the Prince of Wales has come out so openly, and he is talking about from both sides, because he will be going to a synagogue to talk to Israeli leaders, Jewish leaders in this country as well. Because bearing in mind that the king has very much taken a multi-faith approach to his reign, and this will be a reflection of that, to try and unite both sides in this horrific conflict that has been unfolding since the beginning of October. So for the king and indeed the Prince of Wales, they will be horrified by what's going on, and they want to feel that they can try and at least make some contribution. And for Prince William, I'm sure he will want to be out there helping the organisation so that they can perhaps help raise money, whatever they want to do. But it's basically reflecting the fact both sides and trying to remain neutral. It won't be easy because, as you say, people will extrapolate their own views and nuances to whatever he has said.
Yeah, spot on. Thanks, Rupert. As ever, Rupert Bell, our royal correspondent, with us on the programme.